Monster Hunter 1 JP, the game that started one of Capcom's biggest properties. I played through it recently, probably not the best performance in retrospect, and beat it. Here are the thoughts of somebody who has no clue what they are saying. The game feels like it nails the genre it was inventing, but not without feeling incomplete. Although foundational, it was still really fun to play and master each weapon and monster. I enjoyed many of the small details the game offered, watching my character grow stronger while resolving the story of the village and town. I would like to go over the weapons and monsters in more detail. I'm going to grade the weapons on entirely my own feelings and nothing else. Mainly, I want to focus on the unique parts of each weapon and the versatility of their attacks. How many options you get at any one time is vital to the feel of the weapon, and how much fun you can extract and squeeze out of it. Learning when to use the right actions for maximal impact is a very satisfying part of these games for me and probably everybody else. Sword and Shield is an excellent starter weapon, very nimble and allows you to reactively dodge and block thanks to its speed, which helps you learn the ropes. Once you upgrade from the starter weapon, you gain access to status effects. This combined with the weapon speed allows you to shred early game monsters. It does possess quite a few drawbacks. First, the weapon has little attack versatility. Against smaller monsters, the jump attack and the spin attack help you to stagger them to death when they run like cowards. But against larger monsters, you're going to be doing your main combo basically. Against the largest, you'll be left slapping their feet with your pool noodle of a weapon. It's not all bad. You still have the other options when you need to finish a fight quickly, or to jump in and start attacking. And the other attacks don't stop being useful. The weapon's low sharpness and damage does start to make you hungry for more. These needs naturally led me to the Greatsword. Greatsword feels somewhat troubled to me. The damage is great, and the reach is definitely worth it for those larger monsters. But man, do I not like the playstyle in this game. I'm fine with slower weapons to a point. They force you to think through your actions, and commit only when you know you can do so for outstanding damage. Rewarding game knowledge. But after playing with it, I just exhausted all the fun of the weapon. Greatsword is all predictive. Once you've learned exactly what to do for each monster, it's all tapped out of fun juice. It takes postal years for the weapon to return to neutral in order to guard or dodge, which locks a lot of places that you could attack from out of your reach because the monster will just fuck you over. The infinite gets stale after a while, and its lack of utility makes it less appealing compared to everything else. You can crowd clear with the horizontal slash, but otherwise it's just the infinite over and over, nothing else. A good early game weapon. Decent but unfun in the late game because you know exactly what the next 15 minutes of your life look like. Thus, I moved to the other weapon with longer reach. The lance is similar to the greatsword in its strengths and flaws, kind of. You have a stronger weapon with longer reach but a reduced moveset. However, lance is fast, you can actually guard in time with it, and it has a special attack. The gameplay isn't thrilling, but finding the right spots for each monster to poke to death is pretty fun, and you do have something to do if the monster decides to attack you. Honestly, this weapon is the least I have to say about. Poke and poke but upwards isn't exactly a thrilling moveset. The guarded poke is quite niche and useful, especially against Khezu or Gypceros to avoid their giant hurt boxes. The charge is a highlight, great against small monsters and great against enemies who are all the way across the map. With one melee weapon left, and a full item box preventing me from using a bowgun, I moved on. When I reached high rank, I spent the first bit of my time experimenting with the lance. But the majority of my time was spent with the hammer. It's as fast to move as sword and shield, extremely versatile and powerful to boot. The only downsides? A lot honestly. No guarding. Requires lots of stamina so you use more food. Whiffing is disastrous. Plus you get knocked out of charge extremely easily by adds and teammates. But the versatility and utility offered is bar none, and working around its flaws is compelling. The normal attacks aren't great, as the enemy will more than likely move away in the time it takes your attack to connect. They're only really good for a captive audience, pinned or distracted. Most of your time will be spent charging up an attack, and that's where the real variety comes in. Being able to move at full speed is great, dodging errant attacks from both monsters and allies so you don't lose your charges. Fun for me at least. Your choice every time is between a pound or the spin attack, always spin to win, which can be an important choice to make. The maneuverability and this vital choice you make every time you attack led me to really liking the weapon. Definitely my favorite out of the bunch. With mostly everything I wanted made, I emptied my item box and dove into bowguns. A lot of what you do with bowguns is determined from before the hunt begins, and the rest comes down to your execution. This choice usually boiled down to, do you want Pierce 2, Cluster 2, or Para 2? Which isn't the most thrilling decision to make. Having the Laoshan reload set expanded my options somewhat. I never personally played with the really slow bowguns, but it's not exactly the most diverse choice to make. And once again, the gameplay boils down to stand 30 feet away from Angry Chicken and shoot with ammo of choice. Diving into glitches, the reload glitch makes the weapon much more interesting, simply because of the execution required. Going back to older games and exploiting the hell out of them is a fun pastime for me, so this does spice up the weapon. I did throw both heavy and light bowguns together, because they are basically the same in this game, so I don't care. After going through each weapon, I would have to rate them like this. Hammer, glitched bowgun, sword and shield, lance, bowgun, greatsword. Hammer has the most options, sword and shield is fast and somewhat versatile, lance is decently agile but not versatile, bowgun is same E, and greatsword is incredibly same E. The glitch bumps up bowgun by 2 slots in my bad opinion. I don't like fishing for ammo, and combining is slow as molasses. Sue me. Originally, I had more to say about the offline portion of the game, and how it acts as a tutorial, even though I believe according to sources it was added last minute. I was going to go over how it teaches you well, introduces a Bullfango as the first hostile monster, slowly ramping up until you meet Rathalos and steal his eggs. Later, you go and mug him for his money, rounding up your personal arc. Then I would go on to describe how the game was lacking in the offline portion, seeing as how a lot of monsters aren't available, even if the quaint story is neatly wrapped up. But editing is tiring and I am lazy. A few short words about the online portion, before I move on to my opinions on the monsters presented here. Interacting with people online is probably the best part of the game. It's fun to meet and help people. Big shoutouts to MH Old School, they deserve lots of love. It's also great that the monsters are properly spaced, and you can actually hunt all of them. What isn't great is Hunter rank 13 to 17. Yes, I would like to do nothing for 4 ranks. Definitely could have had some more stuff to do here, otherwise the online is solid. Also, it's weird that you do the same set of quests 3 times, offline, Hunter rank 1 to 12, and Hunter rank 13 to 20, but what do I know? I'd now like to direct us to the monsters in the game, starting with the small monsters. There's nothing really of note to discuss here. Most are fine set dressing, they do their job as ads. Felines are neat, but I can't really justify ranking them when they get deleted in one combo. For the purposes of ranking, I will also put drones here. They are the exact same as Prey, just 15% larger. I won't be comparing them to the later games, just as they stand on their own in this one. Ranking monsters from worst to best, we start with Laoshan Lung. What a boring fight. What is there even to say about it? You smack an alligator for 25 minutes, then kill it as soon as it enters Area 5. The fight feels like a beta test for sieges that got left in. Areas 2 and 4 offer something unique to do, jumping on its back to get carves early. But that's it. Area 3 is completely empty, all the cool shit is in 5. More siege equipment should have been distributed through the path maybe, or something else should have been changed to complete the encounter. The last part has really cool music though. Khezu, another monster that feels unfinished. The stealth mechanics feel interesting, but completely unrealized. This is bad when your monster has few moves, which are all extremely telegraphed. A shame because I like the unique moveset he possesses, and the feeling of a stalking, hidden monster they attempt to bring. You have to try to get hit by him, however. Great potential, weak execution. Having your item stolen is a cool mechanic, but Gypceros is just a larger, slower version of Yian-Kut Ku. We're not to Kut Ku yet, so I'll be brief. I feel the speed of Kut Ku makes him a great fight, so that slowed down ruins the flow of the fight. Not great, just a test to see if you've learnt Yian-Kut Ku yet. I'd rate Cephadrome here, but I'll discuss the sandfish later. because he is just sand Plesioth. Young Gravios or Basarios is a pretty straightforward fight. Don't overcommit when he's not charging, or else you get poisoned. Not a large enough moveset to be truly threatening, especially with the damage he does. Not much to say, compared to the Bloses who also charge a lot. He feels one-dimensional. Gravios, however, has full access to the magma beam, so does that make him better? In some form of the idea, yes. It is nice to have something a little more difficult. The beam can really annihilate you if you aren't careful. The stronger attack power in general is also welcome, but he's a little big. A problem if you want the tail cut and you are using sword and shield. But he's threatening enough and probably the first monster to be such. Plesioth and Cephadrome are the same monster, except one shoots sand and swims around in circles around you, and the other is Metal Gear Ray. Both are pretty dangerous in combat, but Cephadrome has much less defense, which drops it down. The hip check is always a notable part of their moveset. I am in awe of how much Plessy bends its body to hip check you. The danger zone is deceptively larger than you would initially think. I don't have too much trouble with avoiding it, but it's such a strong, overbearing move it forces the fight, which is certainly a dynamic. Having to play around attacks, in my opinion, makes a monster better. The Blosses are pretty much exactly the same. The charge is pretty dangerous when enraged, otherwise it's pretty easy to consistently avoid. But a lot of damage can add up from footsteps and small hits with the tail. They can end up nailing you when it's enraged and you are low, so you have to be careful and watch to see if it is attempting to gore you. Diablos has loads of health, which can get pretty obnoxious. For Horns is almost equivalent to a low-rank Laoshan, which is crazy durable. Top 5 monsters now, and the final boss of the game is next. Spoilers for a 20-year-old game. Fatalis is okay. He has some real dangerous attacks that can delete a hunter at full health, so you are always on watch for those while wearing him down. The hunt is thankfully shorter and has more action than Lao, which is good. Watching out for his powerful attacks forces you to play risky on his stomach, or safe on his legs and tail while keeping in good position. It's a fun fight that fits in well with the way weapons work in this game, and has a good team cooperation element. It feels like an actually fun version of how they intended for sieges to be, with opportunity to use the equipment to damage him. Dangerous enemy, fun encounter. Kirin is an interesting event monster. A lot of his attacks are fast, strong, and have minimal knockdown, meaning you can easily go and get hit again like the moron you are. In multiplayer, he is a little sad if only because he spends half the fight laying down on the ground. His lightning attack is scuffed, but scuffed both ways. It feels like sometimes I should have been hit and the attack missed, and sometimes the attack should have missed but hit. Chasing down the lightning pony is a pretty fun fight though. Yian-Kut Ku is one of my favorites, even if he has virtually no health. He is extremely fast, and possesses the full moveset that most monsters only have a part of. The best tutorial for the rest of the game, and a really fun, fast monster to fight overall. There's just not that much to say. He throws out attacks fast enough such that he can combo you down, making him threatening no matter how prepared you are. It's nice to have a monster that forces you to respect him, and either try to step up and knock him down or play around the king. While I bully Yian-Kut Ku, I will introduce the final 2 monsters of the game. Both are pretty similar, Rathalos and Rathian. The flagship of the game and the icons of the series as a whole, I think the couple represent the game perfectly. Rathian feels weaker to me than Rathalos for hunting. A bit more simplistic. She's missing some options her red husband has. Still, her charge is oppressive, and she can nail you easily for buckets of damage. You need to adapt to be defensive, but she tends to stay in one zone and is pretty easy to hit, almost never taking to the air. Maybe for some people this is better, but I find it a bit less dynamic. You don't need to fan out and search in multiplayer, or use flash bombs to ground her. Rathalos. For being the flagship of the game, it's representative of the style of gameplay Monster Hunter 1 has. It takes to the skies, fulfilling its mantle of being the king of them. Preparing counters, gathering together the resources and team to annihilate the flying wyvern is what the first generation represents. preparation, and execution. Flash bombing a giant red chicken so you can cut off his tail and fail to obtain a dinner plate. Shooting him out of the sky, knocking him out of flying. Hitting him with dragon weapons as revenge for knocking you down during an egg quest. I couldn't think of a better monster to represent the first generation. Implementing both gathering and hunting. You want potions, flash bombs, traps, all these items so you can beat him easier. You post people in zones when he moves around to pin him down, and engage with him. You slowly whittle him down with your attacks, until you've broken his wings, shattered his horns, cut off his tail. It's what Monster Hunter is all about. I will finish up this quick review of my thoughts on the game with what it does wrong, and other miscellaneous thoughts. I don't know the story behind the development of the game, and at the moment it doesn't matter. But it does definitely feel incomplete, more so than just missing subspecies and variants and such. High rank feels somewhat pointless, with only a few new weapons, like 3 for each category. The skill system doesn't exist, which in a way is refreshing. I can just wear whatever random crap I want and get by fine. I haven't played Monster Hunter G yet, so I don't know if that fixes things or makes things worse. But I don't think the first game needs much fixing in its original vision. It does most stuff admirably and gives a fun multiplayer experience. The only thing I would change is make it so you can craft inside the item box menu. Other than that, most of it is fine. If you haven't played this game and you are still here, I would recommend that you do so. Even if you think that it is too old, even if you prefer the newer titles. Play it and you will enjoy seeing how the game took its first footsteps, how it invented a whole genre of games.